You are listening to a White Phosphorus Pictures podcast.
Broadcasting under the night sky from the edge of an undisclosed jungle on the Gulf of Mexico, I'm Christopher Garitano, your voice in the night. For the next hour, allow me to be your guide into the bizarre unknown, the fantastic macabre, and together we'll journey to that borderland between fiction and reality, a place beyond all rational explanation. We are now off to the witch.
There is an idea of a Patrick Bateman, some kind of abstraction, but there is no real me, only an entity, something illusory. And though I can hide my cold gaze, and you can shake my hand and feel flesh gripping yours, and maybe you can even sense our lifestyles are probably comparable, I simply am not there.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another Off to the Witch newsletter. What you just heard was a soundbite from the 2000 motion picture by Mary Harron starring Christian Bale in the adaptation of the 1990 novel by Bret Easton Ellis, American Psycho. Now, I read American Psycho in the mid-90s. I was going to film school in New York City, and I was obsessed with finding something original, an original interpretation. You know, 1990 was also the year that Silence of the Lambs came out. And I felt when that movie came out, it was also very original, even though you had umpteenth sequels and television adaptations. When the motion picture came out, it truly was one of a kind. It was preceded by the Michael Mann movie Manhunter, which was also an adaptation of another Thomas Harris novel previously, and it was the Red Dragon novel that he wrote previously to that. And it all dealt with people who killed, people who murdered. But Bret Easton Ellis's novel American Psycho offered a first-person perspective of that mental illness, of that deep narcissism, the consumerism and self-obsessed perspective that drives a human being to become lost, to become shallow and essentially soulless. So the reason why I'm so interested, I've seen American Psycho so many times. I've read the novel twice. The novel is brilliant because it truly offers, that perspective. Once you get deep into it, much like in the film in parts, the novel is Patrick Bateman's perspective on everything and how he's obsessed with his self-image, how he's obsessed with what other people think of him, how he's obsessed with products and music and all of these other things. Now, of course, we can love all of these things, and I do. I love art and music, but the one thing that I'm not obsessed with is this, or have even allowed myself to be absorbed by, is this current narcissistic culture that I think in 1990 Ellis was talking about before it even became the societal norm. And what I'm referring to specifically is the obsession with followers and likes and how many people are just paying attention to you because of you. I think society, in a way, has lost it, has lost this creative perspective, because in the past, I think the person that is making things doesn't usually concern themselves too much with how many people are following them, with how many likes they have. It really is about the thing they're creating. So whether that be, incredible advancements in science, technology, art, music, motion picture achievements, it really is up to the people surrounding you that are going to decide if they're going to praise or condemn you. And really the true creator, the true person who's interested in creating art is it doesn't concern themselves too much with that stuff, because what we have collectively is this irresistible compulsion that I've discussed before to create. It's a calling. It's very mysterious, somewhat paranormal. And, I've had that since I was a kid. I know a lot of other artists and creators and writers and people, they're not concerned. And I think what Ellis was writing about was the culture of people who were first and foremost concerned, that concern, and currently right now with that algorithms are dictating and likes and followers and all this garbage, is dictating first over quality. Quantity over quality seems to be the norm, and that is Patrick Bateman. If you read American Psycho and you pay attention to the scenes in the motion picture that really got it right, that's all he cares about. And he becomes shallow, delusional, murderous. Human life means nothing. It's all about this narcissistic perspective. How many people can pay attention to you just because you're you? You don't even have to have anything to offer. It's simply just because you're you. And I think in the process of that, it depletes a human being. You can call it a soul. It can deplete your self-value, personality. So before I get a little deeper into these ideas, I wanted to update you. As I've told you before, I'm working on the very first Off to the Witch Presents feature-length docudrama documentary, A Haunting We Will Go. It is coming out so beautifully. I have been obsessed with the creation of it. And originally I was going to release it last year, but as documentary movie making goes, and as it happened on Montauk Chronicles when I was making it, it was always quality over getting it done sooner. And I cared so much about this one because this is the launch of this new series of mine. I have not released a series since 2019, which was Strange World for Travel Discovery Channel. And so I wanted to make something outside of the system that retained the same quality or better. In my opinion, this is a stronger series, that it offers a deeper insight into things, whereas I think in the editing process while making television, they kind of rush us through ideas that we could never fully complete. And, no matter how much I pushed, in the end, Strange World was only about maximum 70% of my vision come to the screen. Now, this is 100%. This one, I shot 2 over the last 2 years, and I have a 3rd and a 4th on their way. And, each of these is different, like Strange World. Each offers a different subject matter and perspective. The idea was to raise the bar. That was from the beginning. If I'm going to make another one of these things, and that's always been my goal every time I make a series, I am not going to imitate what you keep seeing over and over again on television. I'm going into this new series with all guns blazing. It's been a plan of mine since Strange World was completed, that while I was on that set, I never thought it made any sense. I love a collaboration, but it never made any sense to deplete quality. And one of the things that were being said to me by some of the higher-ups was, Christopher, keep repeating to yourself, the audience is stupid. That's something that I don't adhere to at all. It's the opposite to me. I think the audience wants to be enlightened. They want more. And if it becomes just about quantity over quality, then it's just about you. And that falls into the category of tonight's subject matter, and I'll get to that in a little bit. However, A Haunting We Will Go, and every chapter that follows, will not only be made as a motion picture and applied with the sensibilities that I learned as a filmmaker over the last couple of decades plus, but it's a genre that needs to be elevated. Even people that have full control outside of the system keep making this trash that I see on television. And the subject matter isn't trash, and I think some of the people are sincere about what they make, so I don't mean to insult anybody. It's just my opinion. I don't, I care so much about the work, and to call your work a film, okay, to actually refer to yourself as a director, I think is wrong if you're not approaching it as a director would, as somebody would who truly believes in the work and wants to offer something very original. If you're just aping and copying what you keep seeing on television and it just gets worse and worse, and I don't know, it's not even fit for a weekly YouTube video, then why do it? Most of these people are faking it. They go out and they have these night vision cameras. They have a few people walking in the woods looking very concerned, and they keep repeating the same format, a couple of drone shots of some mountains or the woods, and it's just the same thing over and over again. Same type of editing. They imitate each other. And what I'm telling you, if you're a creator of this or a consumer, is to desire something more. Something different. Open your imagination to what that is. I think the pendulum's swaying in a direction in society and perspectives that is at an all-time low. What I want to contribute is something that's going to raise that, that's going to spark your imagination, that is going to offer something that is familiar, I would say 40 years ago familiar, but also very new. A new perspective, a new stylistic perspective, something that gets you charged about this work again. I see a lot of people misusing this. Some podcasts are talking about personal things and arguments online. And I mean, like, none of that applies when you're making something for an audience, when you're creating something fresh. And if you don't have an imagination, I think you should leave the floor. I don't think you should be creating anything. And so for me, it's never been a race to try and chase an algorithm or try and make some quick cash or whatever. I mean, I made the last 2 documentaries that are being finished up right now absolutely with zero pay. I financed the entire thing. I have not paid myself in all this time. I have other things that work that I do for TV that pays and other things and licensing deals, but I take the risk, and I've taken the risk my entire life. And I do this because I believe in the work first. It's, yes, movie making is also a business. It's a very expensive paint box, as Orson Welles said. However, that shouldn't be the thing that drives you to create. It shouldn't be at all. You should do it at the risk of not making a dime. And that is where I come from. I always make it at the risk of it not making any money. And because I believe in the work. And luckily, my work has made money. But I think if that's what you're chasing, and that's what the current internet world is dictating to you, immediately your work is depleted. If you're following the YouTube rules, from everything from thumbnails and the rhythm of what you're putting up, you are no longer the creative in charge. You are now just following an algorithm that's set that I think is meant to kind of deplete the imagination of society. We live in a current society and zeitgeist that has no imagination. I mean, think about it. Think about who they're praising in front of you. I don't even want to repeat half the stuff because I try to turn in the other direction. So American Psycho is that world. It's, even though it was written in 1990, it is a character who is obsessed with consumerism, who is so depleted by the need to be the best or the most looked at or the greatest cosmetic front or, nothing that holds imagination. Patrick Bateman is void of imagination. He doesn't offer anything fresh or inspiring. He's so depleted that he has no value for human life. And doesn't even know if he's actually killing or not. This could be all in his head, all of this narcissism, all of this anger. So I think to work against that is to create, is to separate yourself from this way of thinking, is to not compete for things like views and likes online. Why do you want that? Who cares? This is about shaping a soul. This is about you going forward in the world. So I reject all of that. That is my credo. That's my personal soul. I have no need for those things. Of course, I want people to enjoy my movies and my shows and the things I write, and of course this podcast. But if 100 people show up or 100,000, great. If 10 people show up, fantastic. I don't really pay much attention. I just create when I am inspired, and I continue. So a haunting we will go. The reason why it's taken a bit longer for this one is because a new story as part of the narrative, and it's pretty epic because it goes through several different chapters throughout, and it's set up chapter by chapter as well. It's not as long as Montauk Chronicles was. It's a little longer than each individual episode of Strange World is. And I felt like it needed it. And I felt like, I would say, even though it's very stylistic and there are a lot of movie scenes in it, and I do talk to many people about their real life experiences with ghosts, there are ghost hunters in it. Some of the mechanisms are used, but in a completely different fashion than what you see repeated over and over and over again on every single episode of every single ghost hunter show that you see. It begins with imagination. So if you're creator of these things, you need to separate yourself from what you keep seeing and step away for a moment and start to meditate on, I think first, your own death. Because that's one thing that the ghost hunters fail to do, is that they don't really consider soon they're going to be in the place of what they're chasing. That's an interesting concept to me, that we ignore that. We don't want to think about it. And I understand that, but it's part of our journey. It's something that we're going to take. Even though people are fighting for immortality, I'm not sure. I think the Patrick Bateman character in American Psycho would love that. He would just exist as this, I don't even want to call him a shark. Sharks have more personality. So A Haunting We Will Go is the ultimate ghost show. It's the opposite of what we're seeing on television. It is the antithesis of those ghost hunter episodes. As much as you may enjoy them, I'm offering something much better than that. And it's something that you'll revisit. Those things get lost in the soup of 25 seasons of the same episode repeated at different locations. I wanted to offer something that you would watch, at least annually, every year, and it does have a Halloween theme to it, and it's personal. There's a lot of personal stuff in my television shows too, but a little more so in this new series. It's how I relate to the subject matter. And I think much like I was very inspired by Anthony Bourdain in his last couple of seasons before he left the earth. And unfortunately, we lost somebody with a huge imagination and a lot to say about the world. And I felt shows like Bourdain's show, especially his final seasons, really offered stimulation to the soul, imagination, and brain, and the intellect. And so that's what I want out of this. And of course, if you're not equipped to do it, you'll never pull it off because you don't care about these things, because they're not in your soul, because it really is just about making a few bucks and lying to people. And that is not what I do. I've never done that. I have no interest in that whatsoever. And I'm going to continue to push throughout the rest of my life, and I plan to live a very long life making these things for you and for me, and inspiring other people to do so. If what I put out over the next few years and then some inspires other people making this type of thing to get better, I'm all for it. I wouldn't be insulted if their styles change after this, and I predict they probably will, because I feel like the audience is the opposite of what a lot of these networks tell their creators, is that the audience is stupid. I don't believe that at all. I don't believe you're stupid at all. I think you require a higher standard and you're just simply not getting it, especially in the paranormal genre. I mean, it's literally the it's like as easy as making porn. These shows would be as easy as making a porno. Let's chase a few idiots around a house. Let's fake it and say it's haunted and slap it together in post with the same rapid fire, lazy editing. And that's that. Nope. Not interested. Won't do it. Sorry. Never going to see that stuff from me ever. And I've been offered shows like that after my television shows. My television shows, the ones I've put out with networks, have all been my idea and my concept. Of course, you have to wrestle for what you want at the end of the day. And trust me, I've met every arrogant idiot in that business who thinks their ideas are apex because some other idiot gave them an award or whatever, and it's just not true, okay? And there are a lot of Patrick Batemans out there. So I expect A Haunting We Will Go to have some screenings before the end of the year, but another thing I wanted to add is that it's coming out so great, and it is the launch of my new series of documentaries, and that it has to be released properly. I did not have an opportunity to release Montauk Chronicles, and that was 10 years ago, properly. I had pre-sold rentals and DVDs and Blu-rays, and I did not get a chance to take it to the festival circuit. I did not have a chance to promote it properly. Luckily, it worked out for me, but this time around, and this is after I've made television shows professionally for a decade, I'm going to release this properly. So we'll have a screening for Halloween. It'll be great, and it won't be released on streaming right away. I need time because this deserves it, and you deserve it. I don't want to just slap it out there. It's not that kind of thing. And it is the launch of a new series for me, and I've invested quite a bit into it. Not only did I invest a bunch of my own money and time, but this is meant to go on in the future. Outside of that, I have another network project in process, and it's an exciting time because as this is unfolding, I mean, the people we're getting involved with and the actors that are getting involved, it's the biggest project I've ever worked on. And it is a collaboration, but it's something that I started, and I'm excited to see this come to fruition. I can't say anything else about it right now by obligation, contractual obligation, but you're going to hear a lot more about this down the road, not only from me, but in the trades and from the networks and all that jazz.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
There are those who say that this quiet town holds many secrets. Legend has it that beneath this very tower, a dark force had its eyes set on the children.
We were told that what was going on there was for the benefit of humanity.
What would you say to the people who say, well, all these children were kidnapped and murdered and you were a part of it? What would you tell them?
I did approve of it, but there was nothing I could do about it.
They wanted a large number of programmed boys to be used for mind control operations.
And there are others who say it's still happening to this day.
I don't know, I for myself find it a little suspicious that all the evidence has been conveniently destroyed.
Let's put it this way. If you're sitting there with 20 guns pointed at you, what are you going to do? Whatever the hell they want!
Watch Montauk Chronicles now for free on Tubi, Plex, Roku, and available for download on Amazon and Apple TV.
This series presents information based in part on theory and conjecture. The producer's purpose is to suggest some possible explanations, but not necessarily the only ones, to the mysteries we will examine.
A Haunting We Will Go. I can tell you a little bit about the story that unfolded. I was in, and I spoke about this on a previous episode, is that it was called Little Girl Lost, if you want to hear more details, with Dave Spinks and Serenity Jenny. Now, I had asked them to come from West Virginia to here in Florida because I was in the post-production process and still am, of A Haunting We Will Go, and I wanted to get one more interview with them to kind of complete the circle of their chapter. And we were in a cemetery. I brought them to a local cemetery, and I wanted to talk about sacred ground. Well, in short, this is the story in short, that Dave was distracted. He looked at me and said, "Hey, do you hear that?" And of course, I didn't hear anything. And I said, "Well, what?" And he said, "It's a little girl humming. I keep getting called over to a certain area." Now, Dave had never been to that cemetery before. He had no idea where I was taking him. He's out of state. He did not know. I did not give him a location. I drove him there. And we ended up in an area where there was a headstone, and images were etched into it that are tantamount to the things I've covered in my work. There was an alien. There was a UFO. There were things about ghosts. There was a reference from her mother saying, "Mommy's little ghost and Daddy's little shadow." And ultimately, we found out that this was the grave of a 16-year-old girl who was killed in a car accident years ago. And so I started shooting some B-roll at the location, and we talked about it a little bit more, and I felt it was a little too late in the game to begin another chapter in this already epic documentary. I mean, I currently have enough to make 3 A Haunting We Will Go, so I have to use my best taste and discretion, and as I'm forging this, and a good deal of it is finished, but it's still coming together in pieces. It's sparse in pieces, it's fine cut in other pieces, and that's the process. I'm allowing things organically, even though there's a structure written and there's narration written. You allow things to unfold, and the idea of this girl and this idea comes full circle with another story that occurs at the beginning of A Haunting We Will Go, about my cousin Cindy, who was killed in a car accident, and that her ghost haunted my mother when I was a child. I believe my mother. I believe her now. She had an experience, and I grew up with that ghost story, and you'll hear all about it in A Haunting We Will Go in the beginning. And I feel like this story is interesting because they died in a similar manner, Cindy and Caroline. And this comes full circle in the story, and that we're affected by this. And I feel this pulling me. Usually I would dismiss another chapter so late in the game, but this was pulling me in. And I had made so many attempts to reach out to her mother. Did the research. Jenny and Dave helped, and we did some research, and we found an address. We found her social media. But she wasn't getting the messages. You know, you could tell when someone's seeing your message, and she hadn't. I sent her a card for the holidays, you know, anything I could to reach out. So finally, months later, she responded. And we had a wonderful conversation just last night. And I'm going to extend these scenes because they need it. Because I firmly believe, I know Dave and Jenny already do, Caroline's mother does, but I firmly believe she's reaching out to us. And that's eerie and comforting all at once. Because, you know, even in my television shows, we attempted to get EVPs. I personally have never achieved one until now. And it was unintentional. I was at Caroline's grave. I simply just said out loud, the small crew I had with me, including Dave and Jenny, were 25 feet behind me. I said when I was at the grave, "Thank you for letting me shoot here." I didn't whisper. It was, low. I didn't yell it out loud. And there was nobody else in the cemetery, not another soul. And here in post-production, I got a response. And it was in front of me, not far away, directly in front of me, as EVPs go, at a much lower decibel level. I brought up the decibels, and I heard 2 spikes. One was a female, young-sounding female, a whispering response that I can't decipher, but it's clearly being articulated by a female. Second was this kind of ghostly sigh. So you'll hear it in the documentary. You'll see it, and I'm presenting that to her mother as well. And we have other things planned just up ahead that will be incorporated into the story, into the narrative, and will fit perfectly. You still have to write documentaries, good ones at least. You still have to write structure. Doesn't mean it's forced. It just means it's guided into a structure. Imagine, if you will, the footage is clay, and the finished sculpture is the writing, editing, style. All of that comes together in the end to complete a motion picture that you care about. I mean, this other junk can be made overnight virtually, and it's cookie cutter. It's like a person walking, drone shot, someone asking somebody about the creature they saw. Okay, let's move on to the next one. That's not what this is at all. This is completely different. I'm trying to push boundaries with this and also offer something familiar and enjoyable for you that we used to love about these shows. Much like the way society is with a lot of this narcissistic culture, paranormal culture has lost its way. But it's going to come back. I believe that, because I think it is one of the most important subject matters in human existence. Outside of biological science and the mysteries of space and time, the paranormal mysteries are quite an underexplored genre. But what we don't need are people declaring the most outlandish stories they can just make up for cash, or people repeating the same stuff over and over and over again. And again, this is my opinion. You can disagree with me all you want, but I'm right. So I'll leave it at that. And this is really out of the love for this genre and this subject matter since I was a child. None of this stuff existed when I was a kid. I had books. There were very few shows on it when I was a little kid. And these stories, it was stories that sparked my imagination and were quite thrilling, because this was that borderline between fiction and reality, where those things in fiction could be real, and that's exciting to me. And I think that's the basic premise of it all. That's the spark to the imagination. So when you have people coming out and declaring that they know, and then they start naming a menagerie of every creature and monster and everything as if they really exist among us, yet none of us have seen them really, very few have had those experiences. And I'm open to those. And in fact, one of the episodes of Off to the Witch Presents, this docuseries, is going to be about one of those experiences with someone that I've been speaking with. And it's been approached before in other formats, but I have a very unique approach to it, and a strong approach. The idea is, let's focus on each of these one at a time. That's why I did this instead of kind of slapping out a series, because these episodes deserve to be enjoyed and absorbed one at a time. So it would be one or two of these a year in a calendar year. And there'll be more. There'll be other specials as well. And my crews are going to get larger as the years go forward. And this brand is just an anchor for you to recognize a whole new series of docudramas that are coming, and documentaries and shows and unique anthologies and everything that I have planned for years. I was busy working professionally in television making those things, and now I want to make them outside of that system because the playing field is level. And instead of just having it on one streamer, you can have it on 25 and be in control of it, own it. Some Patrick Bateman type wouldn't get their hands on it, bury it if they're in a bad mood, do whatever the hell they're going to do with it. And, these losers can't get their hands on it. And that is exciting to me. I've had that revolutionary spirit since I was in film school, or even before that. So this isn't anything new for me. And I stick to my guns. And when I say I'm going to make something happen, I make it happen. And this is coming. What a difference a day makes. I've been busy making stuff over the last couple of years. That stuff's about to come out. So I can't wait to share it with you. And I do this out of the love for creation first, the spark of imagination, the healing power and an inspiration that I get from diving into that imagination, because I don't do drugs. This is my drug. This is what thrills me. This is what drives me forward in life. Because just like I discuss in A Haunting We Will Go, I happen to know that I'm not going to be here forever. And that's okay. But these things will. That I believe certain movies stand the test of time. Other things get flushed down the hole. And I think a lot of this narcissistic culture is going to go right swirling down that hole. And thank God, right? The pendulum does swing in another direction, and we're about to head in that direction very soon. I truly believe that. I truly believe that we're about to hit a new renaissance. I see it coming. I see it in work. I see it sparked in the imagination of artists and musicians. So if you're one of those people that are about quantity over quality, that if you're just chasing algorithms, get ready to be unemployed. It's not going to work out for you in the near future, because the same people who the networks say are stupid are going to let you know they're not, and they want more. And I'm one of them. That's the thing. I'm in touch. I have a finger on that pulse because I'm one of these people that I require more, that I want to be stimulated. I want to be excited by work, by art, by music. I don't trash anybody creating. I'm just saying, do your best. This is it. You have this shot. You're alive. Why would you follow the rules of some algorithm? You're immediately depleting your potential. Immediately, you're saying, whoever wrote this algorithm, because you don't know who they are, is more important than my own imagination, my own set of rules, the things I want to make. You're not following your own rules. You're following an algorithm. You are a slave to it. See, I'm not, and other artists aren't. And that has been tried and true throughout history, and that will prove your success. Open your mind to the greatest imagination. I would say go back into the deepest wells and fill your brain with things that work. Because if you believe in any conspiracies, you can call it the Patrick Bateman conspiracy. We have a whole culture of American psychos around the world, not specifically in this continent, that in this country, the one I'm in right now, they're all over the world. They're influenced all over the world. They call themselves influencers. Cannot wait till we get rid of these people. They're going to be left low. They're going to need some rehab. They're going to be ashamed for some of the things they did. I really, truly believe that. I think all the people that just expose themselves for cash and do whatever the algorithm tells them to do for a quick buck, you're in for some bad stuff up ahead. It's going to happen. And I think a lot of it's just like drug addiction. I think you're left really low. You're left addicted. You're left empty. I don't think people are really going to be able to bank on that stuff in the near future. And the years that you could have been shaping and building a skill and getting better at something, you followed the rules of this algorithm. And much like Patrick Bateman, he's a mess by the end of the story. So yeah, there's an analogy to this tonight. And that I feel like originality is how you defeat the demon, so to speak. It's a line from Natural Born Killers. Love beats the demon, but it's true. Fight that thing. Fight that this narcissistic culture that we're in right now, where it's so important to you to be heard. Did you not get enough attention when you were a child? Is it that you need so much attention that everything you do has to be said, every thought that comes to your head has to be screamed out online? Come on, folks. It is the time to heal now. We've gone through a living hell as a collective global society, and I think it's important to not fall into this Patrick Bateman conspiracy that I just coined over here, that it is creating a society full of narcissists. I just read about 3 different types of murderers recently that are a spawn of this unfortunate effect on society. One was some OnlyFans killer. I mean, for God's sake, look, if you want to take your clothes off for money, do it. That's your freedom and all, but it's certainly is not empowering. And it changes and weaponizes the psychology of men around the world. It doesn't make you empowered. Unfortunately, it really just objectifies you even worse than you ever could have been. And now, unfortunately, that goes on to other women. So if you're just objectifying every woman, you're wondering where their OnlyFans is. So that's a psyop. You know, those things are being done on purpose to deplete society. I am no Quaker, but I'm all for anybody doing what they feel they have the freedom to do, as long as you're not, I guess, hurting yourself and deliberately hurting other people. You know, people might get upset, but that's their problem, as long as you're not directly hurting anyone or hurting yourself. I just think some of these are traps. The need for a lot of likes and clicks and followers. Listen, that's a trap. 100%, that's a psyop, and it's a trap. I know it's easy for people to lose their way because it's in gradual increments, but much like in the novel American Psycho, Bateman is obsessed with his tan. He takes steroids, so he's changing his body. He's constantly looking in the mirror. He's constantly thinking about products. He's constantly thinking about what's popular. He's constantly thinking about being popular. This was the internet before the internet existed. Ellis wrote this in the late 80s. The internet wasn't a thing at all. So he kind of predicted the future society. Andy Warhol's prediction about 15 minutes of fame, you know, is very true. Look at the people you're celebrating. I mean, you know, I don't even have to say it. It's just as recent as some young lady who said something silly in a video, and I see all of you people repeating it over and over again. You don't think your brains are being messed with? Come on. So step out of the psyop. Get out of it. Get creative. Whatever it is. If it's sculpting, knitting, painting, writing, just get outside in the nature and open your mind. Do something that stimulates your brain to get away from this algorithm. Do it. I'm about to practice what I preach. I'm going to get back to creating a haunting we will go. And part of that is giving that to you. I want you to be stimulated. I want you to open your mind and feel good while you watch this. So I'm working really hard to make something special for you. And I do the same with this podcast, this newsletter. You know, I'm kind of throwing it into the wind and seeing if it works. We'll have a new episode just up ahead with a new guest, new subject matter. Off to the which I have a lot of plans for the future of this thing. But again, I have to be on this schedule because I'm creating so many other things right now that I need to do this every couple of weeks instead. So I truly appreciate your time. And thank you so much for listening to my rant tonight. I am sincere about everything I'm saying. And join me in 2 weeks from tonight for a brand new episode with a brand new guest. And I'll see you next time. Take care.